Hey everybody, something a little bit different this week. One of my friends, long time ago, way before COVID, we had a campaign going, and one of my friends got a Hero Forge mini, and they're expensive. You know, like you custom make everything. You pick out like what they look like, what kind of items they have on them and everything. He loved this character. He told me that it was either his favorite character of all time or like second favorite or something like that. I almost killed him. I came very close to killing him. He got knocked down by an assassin, and then there was a guy that had a magic missile, and he was going to hit him 3 times and make him fail 3 death saves, but he decided not to and go for somebody else. But anyways, yeah, we are starting that campaign back up again. Finally, wrapped up a lot of kind of little one-shot short campaign things that we were doing in between. At one time, we had a D&D group. There was like 11 of us, and I got to DM that group for a little while. Not when there was like 11 of us, but there was 8. Like I DM'd for like 8 people, and it was a lot of fun. It was a big group, and I'm having a little bit of trouble taking all of this seriously, you know, like the other stuff that I paint, just because like the whole thing, it was like we joke around a lot, you know. So my friend wanted me to paint his Hero Forge mini. And then my other friend was like, "Oh, paint mine too," you know. So we're getting back into it. We've got these characters that I'm painting. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about the characters, and we're gonna paint some D&D characters this week. So I got a new airbrush. I got a Harder and Steenbeck, and people compare them to the BMWs of airbrushes because they're German. And they seem to only like premium gasoline, and you know they're expensive and everything. So I've been kind of breaking it in using trying to get my paint to like just the right dilution, because if it's even just a little bit too thick, it just the airbrush doesn't want to work at all. So anyways, yeah, I've been that's a good way to learn how to airbrush, though, is to do stuff like this, like do zenithal priming. And so yeah, I'm just gonna go around and I'm gonna create some highlights on these guys to create some light sources, and then that's gonna be most of the heavy lifting as far as the paint job goes. Like I can just kind of glaze colors on top of that, and I'll already have my lights and darks in place where I want them. So I'm just gonna go around and, you know, hit these guys from a 45-degree angle. And my new airbrush, though, is like, I've been like working out the kinks, and it gets super fine detail. So I'm just practicing with that and trying to get like really crisp details on these guys instead of just blasting them from above at like 45 degrees. But yeah, that's going to be like my value sketch for these guys for later. But I typically have like priming parties where I'll just get together all of the minis that I want to prime, you know, get them ready to paint, and like put them together and do them all at once like this. These guys are all gonna be double duty for like Frostgrave and D&D. So they're my warband, and they're gonna be used in D&D too. And when I'm done, that's what they look like. The one on the left is Canty, and that's my friend's Monk. And then the one on the right is Dell, and he's my other friend's Bugbear. The one other step that I'm going to do before I actually start painting is I'm going to do a little bit of dry brushing. and I'm using a big soft makeup brush, well, like a medium-sized makeup brush to do this. And I do like a test where I check to see if I'm picking up the ridges of my hand. I'll like dry brush on my hand a little bit and see if it's picking up like the little ridges, and then I'll put it on the minis. And I start from the top and work my way down, where I'm like working more of the paint off of the brush the further that I go down. But so these guys, this guy's 3D printed. This monk, my friend's halfling monk, he's 3D printed. This is it's a Hero Forge mini. So I was kind of blown away by the fact that like I could dry brush on him like this, and none of the ridge lines popped out. But yeah, I want to catch like details, like I want to catch folds and fabric and like, make like fingers pop out, hair, all that good stuff, facial features, because I want those to be focal points on the models. So now after I'm done with all that stuff, I'm ready to start painting. I'm going to break out my wet palette, and I'm going to start with some, let's see, these are all Vallejo paints, and then I'm using some Vallejo black game wash and some Vallejo Model Air dark brown, and then some Vallejo Model Color dark flesh tone. So all of those, the Vallejo, the Model Air, the washes, the game color, or sorry, not game color, Model Color, they're not too opaque. Like you can just put them on your models, or maybe thin them out a little bit, and then they'll act as like a filter. So if you have your zenithal, like if you've done a black and white kind of layer with your airbrush, and then it just shows through, so you can just put it on as like a filter to kind of color that black and white paint job. So that's what I'm doing with this side. That's what I'm doing with Dell. And Dell, he's a barbarian. He loves to hit things with his reach, because he has a reach of like 15 feet. He's so big that he already has a natural reach of 10 feet, and then he likes to use a pole arm to give him that extra little bit of ranged attacks. And I'll never forget like how my friends set these characters up. Like Dell, one way that he likes to rage is he likes to look at his wanted posters, because they're bounty hunters. So he'll just sort of look at his bounty hunt, or his posters of who's wanted, and then just picture them and look at their faces, and just think about all the bad things that they've done and how he's going to punish them. And he likes to cut off their heads, because he used to be an executioner. So I'm just going to be wet blending for a while with my wet palette. And I'm just going to set up a palette of a few colors. I'm not going to make this too complicated. Like this isn't pro paint job. This is like Saturday night nerd poker paint job, like friends playing DnD paint job. So I'm not charging my friends for any of this or anything, but so I'm gonna do wet blending for a while. I'm just gonna mix the colors on the model while they're wet, and then get some nice soft smooth blends on there. And so I'm just using this dark flesh tone I'm going dark to light. So I'll start with like the black, the game color wash, and then I'll mix the brown into that, and then I'll do the last lightest highlights with the dark flesh to get some variation in tone. But the whole time I'm just kind of glazing on light, not like opaque colors, just kind of like kind of transparent colors, and keeping that airbrush layer like visible so I can see where my lights and darks need to be. And while I'm at it, I thought I would work on a mini for one of my characters. His name is Raele, Wraele. He's a Master of Assassins, or at least that's his title now. After we went through the Essentials kit, finished that campaign, and he thinks that this piece of paper that he has basically like lets him kill anybody that he wants, and it's just like it's like a get out of jail free card. But he likes to do like that Batman thing where you're like talking to him, and then 1 minute and then you just turn around for a second and then he's gone while he's like still talking to you, and they're like, damn it, like where did it again, like where'd he go? I hate it when he does that. And last but not least, Canty. Caanti. Canty Canterson. So he is a drunken monk, if you can't tell, with all the like beer bottles and stuff that are lying around everywhere. We found him on the side of the road, and it wasn't quite sure if he was hunting some bandits or if they were hunting him. And he had a sharpened pool stick and a bunch of darts from a bar that he lifted that he was about to attack the bandits with. And he's kind of like Popeye, but with booze. So like he like starts drinking, and then that's when his like monk superpowers kick in. And it's very, very much like Popeye, but with alcohol. I'm pretty blown away with the quality of these Hero Forge minis, though. Like with the 3D print, like fidelity and quality, it's pretty amazing. It's very hard to tell which of these were like whiz kids or whatever after they've been primed. Like I was really, really impressed with how much detail they can get out of the 3D prints. Not that they're cheap, Hero Forge is not cheap, but pretty cool. I wanted to paint this guy to see, how the paint job would turn out on a 3D printed mini versus a injection mold plastic mini. And Canty is specifically supposed to have either auburn or red hair. So yeah, again, just working dark to light. I'm trying to get my shadows in. So yeah, this is supposed to be a flesh wash. It's a Game Ink flesh wash, but I'm not sure. I use it for other things. I use it to make like leathers and woods and auburn hair. But if you were a Citadel guy, I'm sure you could use the contrast paints to do this too. I've actually been doing. I'm planning on doing a video where I talk about how to get the most out of contrast paints or Vallejo Game Inks and stuff. Tell you what though, Game Inks and Vallejo Model Air, if you mix them together, they make a product that is superior, and it costs about half as much, I think. But that's for another video. So you probably get the idea of what's happening at this point. I'm just getting my my darks in there, and wet blending where I have to. and or my shadows, my dark colors into the model and kind of wet blending those, and trying to preserve my zenithal paint job, and just doing like transparent kind of passes over stuff to get some general tone down. And then I'm gonna put away the wet palette and I'm gonna go back to it later with more opaque colors, like straight out of the pot, not like watering them down or anything. But I'm also gonna do a little bit of wet blending with these flesh tones. So I'm using one of my favorite model inks. It's P3's Cosite Flesh Wash, and it does a really good job of creating a nice flesh tone. So you just throw that down, and then that gets, you get some really nice shadows in there with that. And then you wet blend in some highlights, or like try brush in some highlights later over the top of it. And it makes a really, really nice looking flesh tone. And I'll make sure that I don't have a big old glob of paint on there, just like a little bit of paint, and then just kind of softly blend that in there while it's still wet. Using the inks as like a shadow, and then putting in little kind of opaque highlights to get rid of some of the coffee staining, and like blend that stuff together while everything's wet. And I can, you definitely go back and fix it later. It's just it'll make your job easier if you wet blend it, because the transition will look a little bit smoother later when you go back to fix your boo-boos, after you're done with doing wet blending. And again, I'm using a really simple palette for these guys. You'll notice that they all have brown and green and red on them. So yeah, if I was trying to do like a really good competition paint job or something, or even if I was spending a lot of time, to make a model look like really good, I think it would be a different story. But this is just going to be like kind of a limited palette thing, for just to spruce up my friends' minis paint jobs. If it was one of my minis, I might spend a little bit more time on it, just seeing as how sometimes I'll play a character for like 6 months or something like that. But I'm a better painter than all of my friends, okay? So they should be happy, they should be grateful. One rule that I do have when I'm using the wet palette though is that I'll do any metallic metal colors last, because I don't want to contaminate all the other paints on the palette with the metallic flakes and turn like every color into a metallic color, So even the water, even if you're using like the same water to clean your brushes in between, you can get the little metallic flakes like in the water. You can contaminate your paint water, and then you think that your brush is clean. You're like swishing it around in the water trying to get all the little metallic flakes out, and then you dip it in another color of paint and you're like, oh, I missed this one little spot and I still have some green left on my palette. And then you notice later, you're like, oh yeah, now it's a metallic green when I wanted it to be fabric. So yeah, I always put down the metallic colors last if I put them on the wet palette at all. And that's where we're at when I'm done with the wet palette. So yeah, I'm gonna put it away, and I'm gonna make sure that I let these guys get nice and dry, and I'm gonna take the dog for a walk and come back to it after everything's completely dry. So now I'm gonna start going to work on these guys using Opaque Colors. So yeah, I'm using a lot of P3, and I'll also use the Vallejo model color. So I have my like shadows in there from the ink washes and wet palette stuff, but these for some reason these green, the game inks dried a little bit glossy, so I am going to use those shadows. So like I'm going to use it to tell me where my darks belong, but I'm just going to kind of wet blend with like opaque colors. And the P3 paints are great for wet blending, but they're definitely a very like opaque. They have good coverage, and they're more of like a heavy body acrylic, but they work really well for wet blending too. So yeah, game color, same thing. It's more heavy body and more opaque than model color, model air, or the inks or the washes or any of that stuff. So I'm just going to use that to, I'm just dry brushing with it here. I'm using a small makeup brush to give him some nice ginger hair, give Conti some nice ginger hair. But yeah, it's definitely more opaque, more heavy body, and it's not transparent. So yeah, the P3, like the game color, and like Army Painter, Citadel, that kind of stuff is going to be a lot more opaque and have better coverage. So yeah, I'm just going to go around with these, opaque colors straight out of the pot, not diluted at all. And I'm going to do like edge highlighting, and I'm going to do, dry brushing and things like that, and cover up any kind of coffee staining, or just define things a little better, like make highlights more saturated, bumped up, like with this red, I want it to be bright red, not like a muted kind of pinkish color. I want it to be like a saturated red. So yeah, same thing all over all these guys. And of course, my favorite color, game color, Stonewall Gray. I think I use it on like every mini these days to do like bases and stuff. And yeah, I think I got some of Rail's cloak with this stuff. I got some of Dell's fur with it, just to create some highlights. And I'll probably go back in and knock them down a little bit with some more washes later, just do some kind of pin washing with like a shade or something later. But great color, one of my all-time favorite paints, game color Stonewall Gray. And I'm going to go around and do some like leather and wood, and just some general kind of brown highlights with another color I really like, P3's Gun Corpse Brown. It's a nice brown color for all kinds of things. and I'm gonna do some metallic highlights with some Citadel bolt gun metal. And I don't know, I think that they might have replaced this paint. I think it's like lead belcher now or something. I've just had this paint for, who knows how long. So yeah, I'm just gonna go around and I'm gonna do the same thing, just kind of do some like edge highlighting with this metallic color. But yeah, one thing about metallic colors is that when metallics are in the shadow, they are not reflective. So I feel like it looks a lot better if you just use it kind of sparingly, to create like reflective metal parts, and then leave your shadows nice and dark, because that's how metal looks in the light. Like they're the only parts that are shiny and reflective are the ones that are in, facing the light, that are reflecting light. So yeah, just gonna go around and do edge highlighting in my my highlights with this metallic color. So I have to do some dry brushing to pick up Dell's fur, but I'm gonna do kind of a little bit of a heavy-handed dry brush and make his fur just kind of light, and then I'm gonna go back over it with the wash to darken it up again. And if it's a little bit too dark, then I'll just either like use a little bit of water, or just kind of wipe it off with my thumb, or brush it into places where I want those shadows. But yeah, I mean, when you have a furry guy, they really want to be dry brushed. So yeah, I mean, something different, kind of goofy, maybe not taking myself as seriously as usual with my paint jobs, but like that's kind of like DnD for us. Like we gotta have something sweet to go with our murder. Some comedy to soften the blow, like Joss Whedon would say. You gotta have some comedy in there with your violence. So anyways, yeah, we're gonna be back at it soon. Me and my buddy, we are painting up bands for Warcry. I am reading Frostgrave 2nd edition. I'm working on lots of Frostgrave terrain, and then more Warcry terrain and stuff. So we are going to be getting back into serious wargaming very soon. But hope you enjoyed this, and thanks for watching, and take care of yourselves, and welcome all my new subscribers, and wash your hands, don't pick your nose, look both ways when you're crossing the street, and I will see you next time.